Kathy? Okay, so I'm muted. I'll start. Okay, everyone. Here we are. It's 11 a.m. and we're going to begin the special council meeting that will take us into a committee of the whole. So I call this meeting to order at 11 a.m. I want to begin by acknowledging that we're meeting on the unceded traditional ancestral territory of the Entlacapan people. And in accordance with our council procedure bylaw, we have Kathy Walter here as Deputy Corporate Officer. So we need a motion to adopt the agenda for this special council meeting. Lightfoot, thank you. Seconder, Toss. All those in favor? Carried. Looking to adopt the minutes of the special council meeting of October the 7th. Then we need a motion. So moved. Thank you, Councillor McCann. Second, Toss. Were there any errors or omissions? All those in favor? Carried. Now we move on to receive a motion to move into committee of the whole. So moved, Lightfoot. Thank you. And a seconder. I'll second that. Thank you, Councillor McCann. And all those in favor? Aye. Carried. All right, so we now find ourselves in this committee of the whole meeting, and we have these, of course, monthly. And I'm going to be turning it over to our CAO, Diane Mombriquette, to lead us in the introduction. Diane.
Thank you, Mayor O'Connor. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Village of Lytton's Committee of the Whole meeting on November the 4th, 2025. Before we begin, I would like to remind everyone to please turn off your video and mute your microphones. Please note that this meeting is being recorded, but it is not being live streamed. Thank you, Your Worship, and you may call the meeting to order.
Thank you. I call this meeting to order at 11:02 a.m. and we need a motion to adopt the agenda for the committee of the whole meeting. Councillor Lightfoot and a seconder. Toss. Thank you, Councillor Toss. All those in favor? Carried. And now we do need a motion to adopt the minutes of the committee of the whole meeting for October the 7th. So moved. Thank you, Councillor McCann, and a seconder. Toss. Thank you, Councillor Toss. Were there any errors or omissions? All those in favor? Carried. All right, we do have a section here for public comment, and I'll turn it back over to Diane Mombriquette.
Thank you, Mayor O'Connor. Members of the public are now invited to comment on matters related to the agenda. If you would like to speak, please use the raise hand function on Zoom. You can find that by clicking on React at the bottom of your screen and then clicking raise hand. When it's your turn, I'll read your name and we will ask you to unmute yourself. You will have 2 minutes to speak. Speakers are asked to please state your name and spell your name and say your address. If anyone would like to speak, please use the raise hand function now. And I'll call for a second time. If anybody would like to speak, please use the raise hand function now. Your Worship, is there anyone at the Parish Hall who wishes to speak?
No, we have no public here today.
Okay, thank you. That completes the public comment portion of the meeting. Back over to you.
All right, so we're on to item number 5, which is staff reports and presentations. And we're here to discuss the strategic plan and the 2026 annual plan. So I'm going to turn it back over to CAO Mombriquette.
Thank you very much, Mayor O'Connor. And I'm going to ask Melissa Drew to share the presentation. So we're with you today, Mayor and Council, to talk about our strategic plan that we developed last year and just check in on the 6 priorities that Council set at that time. And then various staff members are going to run through their areas and just very, very quickly review a couple of their top 2025 initiatives and then share with you what they're thinking in these early days on, you know, what items might appear in the 2026 plan. So looking for any discussion on any of those items. I thought what we would do, because we have quite a few presenters and not actually a lot of time, I thought we would run through the whole presentation first, if that would be okay with Mayor and Council, and then entertain questions on specific areas at the end, just to ensure that we don't run out of time.
Yes, that makes sense.
Okay, great. Next slide, please, Melissa.
Are we able to turn off the words underneath to make closed captions so we can make it bigger? There we go. Thank you. Okay, go ahead.
So back over to the strategic plan. So in October of 2024, council met and established 6 strategic priorities. And so, you know, we had a bit of an exercise with a facilitator to help just kind of, you know, run through a bunch of these things and talk about what it meant for the village and then ultimately for our plan and budget. And the 6 items that we landed on last year were rebuilding. And so that was reprioritize rebuilding to support residents and businesses to return to their community. Organizational excellence, which we are focused on ensuring that the Village of Lytton has the systems, policies, and resources to provide sustainable, cost-effective services. Relationships, so we recognize that our future is inextricably linked with others. Economic growth, we will focus on attracting businesses to the Village of Lytton to support our residents. Safety and sustainability, we confront the challenges of our amazing location provides and work collaboratively with local partners to find solutions. And then the final one was advocacy. We advocate strongly on behalf of the Village of Lytton on issues outside of our control, but that impact our village. So those were the 6 that we landed on last year. And then from that, we prepared the 2025 annual plan, including the key performance indicators, which we just had a report on at the last council meeting. And, you know, we were intending to continue on a similar path for 2026, but just wanted to check in with council first on those items to make sure. So I will carry on now, but we can go back to the strategic priorities at a later time if necessary. Next slide, Melissa, please. And so the annual planning process starts with the strategic priorities, and from there we establish KPIs. Out of that, we have the sort of the key initiatives and then ultimately the budget. So today we're going to talk about the key initiatives. And as I said, we'll just briefly touch on the 2025 initiatives, but really focus on what's on tap for 2026. So we're going to share those with you and we can answer any questions from that or the council may have about that. From there, we will go ahead then and prepare the 2026 annual plan and do some of the preliminary budget work. So the first section for key initiatives. Next slide, Melissa, is legislative services. And I'm just presenting this on behalf of Lisa because she was unable to join us today. So some of the key 2025 key initiatives are listed there, things like a records management policy and a cemetery bylaw. And, you know, we did a lot of work this year on some of the missing HR pieces, the employee handbook and onboarding and those types of items. But in 2026, of course, the big thing in legislative services is going to be the municipal election. That's going to take up a lot of the focus and the time in this area. But in addition to that, we're going to complete the rollout of the cemetery, the upgrades to the cemetery, as well as the policies and procedures, finalize the records management policy, and then do some freedom of information and protection of privacy training for everyone, council and staff. And so now I will turn it over to the next slide, Melissa. I'll turn it over to Lisa McIntosh and she'll run through the finance and accounting side of things.
Good morning, everyone, Mayor and Council and staff and members of the public. In finance and accounting, last year we worked on, or I guess this year, rolling out our procurement policy. We made some updates early in 2025, or sorry, early in 2024. And then we wanted to make sure that all the staff had training on using POs on a regular basis and becoming compliant for our purchasing policy. We have completed that objective.
You should be able to pin it.
Sorry, we just
Well, we just can't see your slide.
we're just getting our technology set up here. Apologize.
Oh, okay, no problem. Do you want me to wait until I?
Could you wait for a second,
Yeah,
please?
of
Yeah.
course.
Melissa, can you figure that out?
I
Melissa.
don't. Hi, I'm not sure how to pin that from my end. I think, let me just see.
It's not giving the pin option. As soon as I pinned Lisa, it changed it.
Okay, I'm just trying to have a look here.
The right-hand corner upper, try that. What's that? There we go.
Oh,
Yeah.
got it.
Just slide that. Yeah, slide that over. Yeah. Okay.
Okay, you can
We're
see
good to
now.
go.
Okay.
Yes, we can.
See the slide.
Okay, great. So for 2025, we rolled out the procurement policy and did some staff and management training. We're still kind of working through. We've finished our rollout and training, but some staff are still getting used to the rules around procurement, which it does take a little bit of time, but we're becoming very close to being compliant. We also did some electronic billing we did utilities first, and we rolled that out in Q2 of 2025. And this was the first year we did our tax bills electronically as well. We also did custom reports. We're actually kind of just sort of testing those now. One of the first ones was really to create a report that would match our financial statements so we could run it on a regular basis. And we're still testing that. But it will be completed by the end of the year. And then for our GL coding, this is actually something that is in progress. I expect that it will be ready around the middle of December, but we will be waiting for Muniware to update those changes. And so we should have those finished by the end of the year, which is great. In terms of 2026, we're going to add some other reports to that customized list. We're going to look at some of the web-based software options. There is the accounting software we use now. There is a version that is all online, where we could actually put the invoices like right into the system, and it would just give users a little bit better access to use things instead of relying on SharePoint. But that's just investigation, as well as but just to see what that's going to cost, how it's going to work. It is a fairly new system. And then the reminder notices for anyone that gets behind in tax or utility bills. We are going to customize a letter that will be run based on the system balances. So we're just looking at the wording of those now. And again, that's something that we expect will be done in early 2026. We do rely a little bit on Muniware for that as well, but I think we're pretty close. The financial statements for the village have always been really prepared solely by the auditors, but we want to take a more proactive approach and basically do a little bit more work in-house for that. So it should really improve our turnaround time, which was a bit of an issue last year. So I think we'll be busy with those initiatives, and I think they'll really benefit the department, management, and council. And that's it for me.
Carolyn, over to you.
Okay. Hi, everybody.
Just
So I'll
Carolyn, can you just wait 1 second? We're just going to get the,
You want to see?
I don't think, yeah, we don't need this.
Very good.
No, we're just going to remove, there we go.
Okay.
Okay.
So you're good now?
Well, I apologize.
We did want to see this.
We did want to see it. I apologize. I thought it was going to be a different one. I'm gonna try it again. Practice. Okay, Caroline, sorry about that.
That's good, okay.
Yeah, here we
So
go.
I'm here to present the 2025 and 2026 key initiatives for planning and development. So in 2025, the key initiatives was really to manage process planning, development, and building applications. So as much as dealing with applicants, it's also to recognize, and much of this was done before I started in March, but just understanding some of the hurdles and if we can relax some of those hurdles to make building more streamlined for local property owners. The department also oversees consultants. So this year we brought on a new building inspections company called Grey Wolf, and then building officials through the TNRD, and then planning services with Urban Options. However, we're going to pivot a little bit in the end of 2025 with probably a planning assistant to help me, and then in a contract. So much more focused on getting some of these projects done with me as the lead. And also we continue to assist local property owners with the rebuild. Anticipated initiatives, again, continue to assist property owners in navigating and rebuilding process, building awareness. Continue working with funders on rebuilding. So, the Pacific Can, the Red Cross, the unmet needs is to really understand what people need to move forward. And that also, we've done some notices and for people to please come and contact me. And actually it's done quite well. I've had a little boost, which is great. And then temporary and permanent housing initiatives, which was the report that went to you at your last meeting, and then parks improvement, which you will soon see the implementation plan coming forward. Next slide, Melissa, please. So economic development in 2025 was to hire economic development position, which I believe was what you advertised for when you got me. So you got a bit of both. You are implementing year one of the destination development plan. And so some of the initial initiatives through that related to zoning and just cleaning up some of our processes and identifying where we want to go was park improvements that I mentioned. EV charging is at Public Works, and I also believe it will be part of the hub. Farmers Market, we'd really love to get them back, but in discussions with them, it's pending a bank machine. So we are again in touch with Scotiabank to relocate here. The grocery store, again, still working on that. A food truck, which was part of the destination plan, and we're just going right now to expression of interest, and it's actually twofold. We're moving into 2026 a bit more as well, which is looking at maybe there's service or retail, for example, a barber, someone that does massages, something like that people could rent the space in a trailer or a mobile situation. We've also, with the parks plan, we looked at wayfinding. We continue to pursue any kind of funding we can get, and then continued obviously to work on partnerships, marketing, and the marketing through the newsletter and the website. And in the summer, Melissa did do a compilation on the website of what's open, so leading towards that, and it'll become more fulsome as we move into 2026. So 2026, we'll actually need to do the economic development plan, as you know, the OCP is definitely having a leading in that focus. Implementing year two of the destination development plan, which is continued community connections, expanding the food truck, EV at the hub, and business networking events. And then explore regional partnerships, which is ongoing, and which council actually does a lot of, and then consider Destination BC funding and promotions, which Diane and I have been speaking about. Next slide, Melissa. And the next item is pretty front of mind these days, at least for me. So the 2025, we've completed the work plan, and with Melissa, the communications and engagement plan. We also commenced the OCP update and launch as per last week. In PUBMA and community outreach is ongoing through staff and councils outreach. And also we're starting to commence the technical investigations. So the LiDAR mapping has been flown and will be done probably next week. And then we can start rolling out the consultants, because some of them needed that information. And then in 2026, we'll continue to work on the OCP update work plan with ongoing consultation, and then adopt it hopefully prior to the summer of 2026 with a very strong implementation plan. And that's all I have.
So Daryl, over to you, please.
Hello, everyone. Can everyone see in Parish Hall? Can they see the slides?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. Yeah, so in terms of utilities and major projects, so in 2025, we completed the sewer replacement on River Road, and partial work east of Main on sewer improvements as they related to the water system. We've also completed now the water replacements east of Main. The water mains have now been tested, certified, and connected into the operational water system. We've identified some issues through some of the reporting by Archimedes and some subsequent investigation of some flow issues related to the 265 pressure zone that serves the lower village. And we're actively investigating work to identify potentially if there's maybe a closed valve someplace or partially closed valve, that sort of thing. The work around east of Main will substantially increase flows and fire flows in that region, because prior to the improvements, we were operating primarily on 2- and 4-inch water mains, which are generally very small for a water distribution system. We've also completed most of the work for the design of sewer mains on Center Lane and First, and True Engineering is now in the midst of designing remaining sewer infrastructure west of Main Street. We're anticipating that towards the end of the month, they'll have documentation and drawings ready that we can start presenting and getting RFPs for construction. So we can get going on the work early in 2026. The assessment of the water intake was completed. We have final comments to the consultant, and there's a few minor things that they have to update in the report, and then they should be issuing their final report. And also, we've completed a preliminary assessment of the wastewater treatment plant, and we are also working on getting a proposal from our preferred consultant for that work to complete upgrading design of a improved SCADA system and backup power for the wastewater treatment plant, as well as a separate feasibility assessment to complete anticipated upgrades down the road for the wastewater treatment plant. So for 2026, we should be able, as soon as the weather turns warm enough in January, February, March, to start construction work of all the sewer work west of Main Street. So that's the work we've previously discussed for West Lane, Fraser, 6th, and Main Street, as well as Center Lane and First. We should be in a position as well to complete the SCADA and backup power improvements at the wastewater treatment plant, and also initiate and complete the wastewater treatment plant feasibility study for future upgrades for capacity and treatment requirements. We would also like to update water leakage and flow testing study. It'll be interesting to see once we get some data following the improvements east of Main to see how that's affected our current situation for water usage. It's anticipated that we will see at least incremental improvements as we complete these repairs and improvement projects. For Lytton Creek, we are currently having one of our preferred consultants give us a proposal for actually completing the intake repair designs needed to address certain issues on the intake. And then we would like to go to construction and complete those sometime when the water is low, either pre-freshet or in the summer. In terms of water upgrading, there is some identified work that needs to be done. We're hoping to get the assessment for the 265 flows that we have concerns with, get that work done very shortly, and then start planning all the capital projects for the water system. Currently, there's some associated repairs, including water looping between Fraser and Main Street that'll be required. There's Loring Way water trunk.
What does that mean, Daryl? We don't know what that means. Water looping.
Oh, water looping. Oh, sorry. So basically, what we say water looping, we're trying to connect the water lines on Fraser and Main Street, because essentially we have two independent water lines that run down. And right now they're weakly connected, I think at first with a 6-inch water line. And I think there's one other one, but they don't connect and provide good flow. So for example, if we had a hydrant that we turned on, say, in the middle of 4th Street, we'd be getting flows from one side of the system. If we add these crossing lines that connect the water line between Fraser and Main Street, we'll get much better local flows. Does that answer the question?
It's to connect Main and Fraser with another line.
That is correct. So you get
you.
better flow characteristics.
Gotcha.
Yes.
That makes.
Okay. Also, there's Loring Way trunk main. We need to improve, upgrade that to increase the size to get better flows down the 345 zone towards the motel and the school. And we would also like to investigate sewer servicing on Kent Road, because we have some challenges currently with the current situation. It's not serviceable by Public Works, so we have to assess how we're going to improve the service down to Kent Road. And would also like to complete a local stormwater assessment, primarily with the upland flows that are crossing the Trans-Canada Highway, and get a high-level assessment in terms of any direction we may need to go, and then look at any improvements that we may need there. Next slide. So for the Public Works Department, for 2025, we were refining procedures for daily testing, monitoring, starting to look at replacing tools using our insurance proceeds. We want to move into the new building and develop a written standard operating procedures for buildings, parks, maintenance. Most of these are work in progress, and we're looking at incremental change to improve all of our daily reporting and monitoring processes. In 2026, we would like to continue to develop and refine the staff planning and staff reporting system. Currently, we've started somewhat of a manual system, and it would be nice to get more of an automated system that simplifies it for all staff. And continue development of standing operating procedures and daily task lists. So we've also got a calendar that we plan weekly activities by Public Works. We've got a spreadsheet that we can add any tasks that Public Works has to complete with priority lists, so then Public Works can go in and then schedule that work. And I'm not sure, is there another slide, or it's okay? That's the end of mine.
So this one's over to you, Brian, please.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. So the 2025 key initiatives, regional emergency management organizations and agreements. Still working on collaborations with our partners, as well as I was just speaking with the TNRD representatives to make sure we can get a copy of what currently is in place to make sure it's meeting our needs now and in the future. Finalize the draft emergency plan has been presented by Jim McDonald to the group. Continue minimum training standards for fire services. This is still ongoing. Recently, this past weekend, we did pump and apparatus training downtown with some of the members. And we have first responder training as well as auto extraction training coming up in the next couple months with collaboratively with Cooks Ferry and Spence's Bridge. Replacing equipment with insurance proceeds. We have replaced some and we're working on plans to replace and improve what we currently have. 2026, moving forward, I'll continue working with our partners on emergency management and seeing if we can enhance the current agreements as well as maybe come up with some new ones. Collaborate on design of a new fire hall and emergency services building. Continue community training on emergency management scenarios. So probably not until after Christmas. We'll try and look to do some more tabletop exercises. We recently did what's called Shakeout BC, an earthquake awareness, which was just done at the staff level at the office, but it was kind of fun and interesting. So I'll look to see if we can try to do more events such as that. Next slide. I think this one's for me as well. The backfill process project that was scheduled for completion of September 30th, I would say is 95 to 98% complete. I'm working with one or two contractors still right now to see if we can completely finalize that before snowfall. Retaining walls east of Main Street. I'm looking at both slopes in the downtown core to make sure that we have slope stability. If something's required on our public property, we'll make sure that it's there to make sure that the slopes are stable. And stormwater assessment, as Daryl indicated, there is some stormwater issues, drainage issues around the village that we're currently working on with partners such as Mott to make sure we can address. 2026, again, this will be retaining walls east of Main Street that I'm currently working on to see what kind of plans we can put in place, and I'll be presenting options to council.
Is that the health site?
It's all of it, basically the entire slope.
Okay.
Right. Where we may have problems, we'll address with geotechnical to see what we can do. That's it.
I'm not going to go into a lot of detail about capital projects because we talk about these every month. As you know, in 2025, our key initiatives were around the Public Works building, the planning and designing of the village office, and getting the community hub going. And in 2026, we anticipate beginning construction on the village office, completing design and beginning the construction on the community hub, and hopefully doing the design and construction of the pool. So next one, I think, is you, Melissa.
Yeah, in 2025, we continued with our bi-weekly newsletter, website training guides, updates to forms online, and website improvements. We launched the new website in November 2024. And I've done quite a lot of work this year updating it. I checked the stats today for it. In 2024, before the launch, we had about 16,000 users. Since we launched it, we've had 62,000, so 3.8 times more. And our page views have gone up by almost 5 times to close to 200,000 page views since the launch. So I think we're seeing a lot more searchability and people finding hopefully what they need and finding information on the website. Some things that we didn't do in 2025 were writing style guides. We haven't done a communications and engagement survey, but we still could. The last one was in May or June of 2024. I looked at some of the other metrics from 2025. Our Facebook page views are also up by about 2.5 times to 295,000 page views in the year to date. Engagement's a little bit lower, so less comments and less shares, but we are getting a lot of views definitely of content that we share that way. And our newsletter continues to be well used with 372 subscribers and open rates of 34 to 69%, depending on the week. Which is quite a lot higher than the industry standard, which would be under 30% for a community newsletter. So that's really encouraging. Some of the other things not on there, just supporting with engagement for projects such as the Community Hub and the official community plan update, events like the Public Works Building opening, and ongoing support for media relations and rebuilding projects. In 2026, there'll be a lot of communications and engagement support for projects like the Community Hub, official community plan update, economic development, as mentioned by Carolyn, and the municipal election. And I would like to do a survey on community preferences for community and engagement so we can make sure that we're meeting people's needs.
And then the last slide, and this is just to very quickly run through the timeline. I haven't actually set any of the dates for anything yet because we don't have the council meeting calendar for 2026 yet, but just to remind everybody kind of when things happen. We've got this meeting today where we're reviewing the initiatives. At our December committee of the whole, I'm planning to review some of the budget considerations that we might have for the 2026 year. In December and January, the staff are creating their departmental plans and their draft budgets. And then in mid-January, we'll do our budget workshop with council and staff. Early February, we get the budget direction from council, which gives us kind of a clear picture of kind of how to develop the budget and what our financial targets are. In late February, we'll have the final draft budget to council, and that's when we'll do our community consultation, including an in-person session as well as online consultation. In late March, we'll present the draft 5-year plan, and then in April we'll do the 5-year plan bylaw and the tax rate bylaw, all of it gearing towards adopting the tax rate bylaw on May the 12th. So we'll have more specifics on dates at a later time. This was just to give you a general sense. And that is the end of our presentation. And so I'll turn it back over to you, Mayor O'Connor.
Thank you very much. And thank you to everyone for the presentation and all of your parts in it. And as we said at the beginning, we waited till you finished before we dive into it a little bit and ask questions. And just a reminder to everyone that this is a committee of the whole meeting, so we're not giving any direction to staff at this time other than, maybe if there's more information to bring back or that sort of thing, but it's a time for some conversation and comments. So we'll watch for hands going up and we will move around with comments and questions. So who would like to begin?
You're going to go through the order in the order that we saw it, like each section? That's just kind of okay.
We can do that if that's a helpful way to proceed.
If you have the order in front of you, Diane, that maybe you could remind us what the order was.
So the first thing were the strategic priorities.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, right, to the very beginning with the 6 strategic priorities that we had set last year at our workshop. So does anyone have any comments on those?
I don't know if this is where it belongs.
Councilor Toss then? Yeah.
Mayor O'Connor. I'm not sure if this is where this comment belongs, but I'll throw it out there because it'll pop up. I think is in our planning in its entirety, that idea of getting away from the recovery. I don't see any sort of planning towards the transitioning from recovery, and I'm hoping that we start that in 2026.
Okay.
Thank you. Any other comments on the 6 priorities? Everybody is good with those key topics, key areas of focus? Okay. Are you able to have Councillor Michelle show up on the screen? I can't see her. I'm sure she's still here. I hope she's still here.
I can see her.
Just the way our view is on
Oh, okay.
on the screen. There she is. Thank you. That's better. Okay. No, that's all right.
I did have one.
Councillor McCann?
When I went through our 6 things and looked at the area focus section, I did wonder if any of those things needed to be kind of tweaked, twisted, turned, or removed. As I went through them a little bit earlier, I didn't make notes, but on the area of focus for relationships, that was okay, working, yes. Oh, down there where it says volunteers, not for profit. I remember asking before, and I'm going to ask again, if we could be a little more specific in wording there and saying what exactly it is we're talking about. Like, what about not for profit? Are we working with not for profits? Are we? So an example is the shade structure is in place because a not for profit group took some initiative and worked with the village to make that happen. And things like that happen in Lit quite a lot, like the park behind us. We're always doing that kind of stuff. So I just would appreciate if it was a little bit clearer and like there were more words besides NFP. That's just what I'm asking, is that we just say more about what exactly we're doing there to make that clear when anybody reads this.
Thank you for that. Other comments? Councillor Choss.
Thank you, Mayor O'Connor. I totally support what Councillor McCann said there, because I think with relationships in the village, there is so much grass work being done, and that relationship with the not-for-profits and the volunteers that is actually probably the main pillar for relationships and stuff getting done in the village.
Good, thank you.
And residents.
Okay. Anything else on this topic of the priorities? Councillor Choss?
Thank you. I don't know, again, if this would belong in administration here. Organizational excellence. And this is maybe an opinion more than a comment, but in my world, I think a really good organizational excellence area of focus would be to get leadership back into the village, like having a visible presence in the village of management, whether that be Brian or the CAO or the ATCO trailer being invigorated. So having administration in the village, it does not look like our village office is going to be built in 2026 as planned. I think that's a lofty goal, but it's not going to happen. So sorry, Kathy. I would be behind finding some solution for that so that we are not at the mill office into 2027 and the next council. That could be a discussion.
Yeah, and I wonder if that would come under the not the key initiatives, but the rather than under the broad section. Yeah, it's good. Councillor Lightfoot.
I was just going to say these are strategic priorities. So I think what Councillor Toss is
referring to
describing is more as an action plan or a yearly goal. So I think in broad terms, I'd like the strategic priorities. As Councillor McCann said, build relations with volunteers. I think that needs to be tweaked a little bit, like continue to partner volunteers and nonprofits, I think would be a more proactive way to say it.
I have to just respond to Councillor Lightfoot. I think the areas of focus are exactly what would be an appropriate place for getting the the governance council's focus on efficient, respectful, inclusive decision making. within the village could be like the caveat, you know, like internal, we have personal policy, procedure systems, we're a high-functioning organization with a presence in the village. But I'm just saying it's debatable.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, it would come back to council. Yeah.
If I may,
yes.
if I may respond, toss, perhaps it's a fourth bullet that says continue to
Work towards
establishing it within the physical municipality.
absolutely.
Councillor Michelle, do you have any thoughts on these priorities?
Nothing to add what the other councillors have said. I
Okay.
agree with what's been brought up.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so what is the next topic? CIO Wombriket. That we covered, that would be,
You're muted.
oh, you're muted.
Sorry. Next topic is legislative services.
Right.
And that was around the election and then a little bit, still a bit more bylaw cleanup and that type of thing.
So I have a question, and I don't know whether you can answer this, but you know, over the last 3 or 4 years, we've been seeing bylaws that we've needed to make sure we're functioning properly. And so are we pretty much caught up on those bylaws? You know, all the bylaws we lost that we needed to recreate, or is there still a lot more to do? I'm just kind of a sense of where we're at with that.
I think primarily the ones that were lost have been recreated. We're in pretty good shape there, but we still have some pretty old bylaws that need to be updated. Something like the business licensing bylaw that's being worked on right now. The cemetery bylaw is another one that's being worked on. So as we're we're kind of going through and making sure that what's in there makes sense. Like for example, the types of businesses that are in the business license bylaw no longer makes sense. Similar to how when we looked at the zoning bylaw, the different types of commercial activities had been outdated, right? So there's just a number of things like that we're continuing to update.
So we would guess to see over this next year some more bylaws updating.
Yeah, that's correct. But I don't believe you'll see anything from scratch.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Other comments or questions? Topic legislative services, Councillor Lightfoot.
I'm just curious, when you're revamping the business bylaw, business permit, if home-based businesses is part of it. I know historically it wasn't, but there was an ask from the community at one time to expand that.
Okay. Take that under advisement.
Yeah. Councillor Toss.
Thank you. Excuse my ignorance. Do we have an animal bylaw, like for chickens or goats or?
We have an animal control bylaw, yes.
Yeah. Okay, I'm gonna have a look at that. Thank you.
It's
Okay.
probably another one that needs to be updated.
Yeah. Any other comments around legislative services? I know there'll be lots going on, as you said, with the election coming up, a lot of time spent on that.
Mhm.
And resources. Okay, so next topic.
Is finance and
Thank
accounting.
you. I can never remember what's next. So,
Mhm.
and that's Lisa McIntosh presented that. So Councillor McCann.
I just had a question. Lisa alluded to it somewhat, but I'd really appreciate a little more explanation from her about the being prepared for the audit, that there was some issues last year that caused some kind of a delay. And I was concerned when that happened, and I just wanted to ask this year what exactly, maybe she could just give us a little more information about what exactly is happening there to make sure that doesn't happen again. Well, hopefully.
Sure. Sure, no problem. And I didn't mean to sound off an alarm, but what happens typically is that the auditors get kind of bogged down because everything happens at the same time.
Yeah.
And you may remember that we had an issue trying to get things done on the date so that we would meet all the we have their bylaws or regulations that we have to have the financial statements completed by a certain date. And but what happens is if if we're all trying to work towards May, like April and May deadlines, then they get backed up and we get backed up. And there was a little bit more back and forth this year just because there were some kind of accounting issues that we needed to discuss with them. So we're trying to have those discussions earlier and kind of make our process a little bit more, well, we're basically trying to fine tune the process so that it's a little bit more automated and things are a little more up to date. So there's not as many questions that go back and forth. So we're trying to keep things more updated on our end this year so that that goes a little more smoothly. And this will give us a little more time to look at drafts and things like that.
Thank you. I just.
Well, if I could just add to that, I mean, at the end of the audit, the very last thing that typically gets done is the preparation of the financial statements. And through that process, a number of issues come up and questions arise. So what we're suggesting is that if we prepare the financial statements ourselves earlier in the process, all those questions and issues will come up and we'll get them resolved before 2 days before the financial statements are due, which is where we ran into trouble last year, right? The financial statements were very late being prepared, and then there were questions. So, so just trying to back that up in the process a bit, that means we're doing it, not them.
Yeah. It gives you the opportunity to find out any issues that might be there, get them resolved, and then have a more complete report ready.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay.
Councillor Lightfoot.
That was somewhat, my question was, what is the timeline for the auditors? Like, will they start to get involved the end of January and hopefully be done by the middle of March, or just vague, but an outline of their time frame? Do you know?
Yeah, and we don't have that from them yet, but we should have that soon. Hopefully we will be able to start with them earlier than we did last year. The financial statements are due to the Inspector of Municipalities on May 15th. So that's always the deadline that we're working towards. But there's no reason with the December 31st year end why they couldn't be done before that.
Any other comments, questions regarding the financials? No. And the next topic then
Is planning.
Thank you, planning, and that was Carolyn's presentation.
I did have, I'm sorry.
Councillor McCann?
One more question.
Yeah, Councillor.
You mentioned the web-based system and moving more to that system. And I was just kind of curious about the pros and cons that you're kind of walking your way through on that.
Well, one of the big cons is that we're currently on a server-based system, right? So the information is all held on a server as opposed to in the cloud in the internet. And so every time there's an update to the software, everybody's got to get out of the software and ComCom's got to log in and they have to do an update, to our system. And, in nowadays, every system you have is just constantly being updated over the internet, right? So we could end up being a couple of releases behind. We could end up without having the latest features that are available because we haven't done the update to our system yet. And it's really, I think it's the only server-based system we still have, because as we saw in the fire, if the server burns, we lose the system, right? So it makes a lot of sense to try to migrate if it's something that's, feasible from a cost perspective. And as Lisa said, the features and, make sure we can do all the same things, but there's no reason why it wouldn't be able to do that.
So one of the considerations there, and you kind of alluded to this earlier at another meeting about something else, is that the cost of keeping those cloud-based systems secure continues to exponentially increase, and it's hard to budget for that.
And we have to continually pay license fees, right? When you're working on a cloud-based system, you pay an annual license fee for each user. We purchased this software a number of years ago, and now we just pay for an annual maintenance fee, which includes the help desk and these updates. So sometimes you can end up having and this is where we've ended up with Microsoft 365. Was in my financial report last week. You end up with all these license fees, and they do just kind of keep building on each other. and can end up to be a lot of money.
Thank you for that. Any other comments? We will move on to Caroline then, with the planning department. There she is. Any comments or questions for Caroline around this?
The ECDEV stuff.
So Councillor McCann.
You mentioned a planning assistant. Can you talk more about that?
Sorry, planning assistant. Yes. So in going through what the village is going to need going forward, it was a bit redundant to have me as well as Urban Options and pay for that service. And so Diane and I had a good conversation about what help I really need. And if you saw me running around last week, you might have realized that. And also to a point to Jen, we are hoping to find someone local that might be able to be in the office a bit more than I am. So the ads are just going out. So it's definitely a very entry level planning assistant position that we're looking for on contract with fluctuating hours. So only needed when we need them, sort of thing.
Oh, yeah. So it might potentially be some kind of a mentoring kind of thing. Okay. I do have any questions.
Any more questions, Councillor Toss?
Thank you. This is a little bit preliminary because I know the Lytton Chamber of Commerce is planning to meet with Mayor and Council and discussing several issues. But one was, and I don't want to get ahead of ourselves, but taking on some of the economic development roles, maybe called by contract or whatever have you. I know it's within our KPIs to get the chamber involved with the pamphlet to come out this fall, maybe like to attract businesses. But I think there might be more of a role for the chamber in ECDEV pursuits going forward, and being locally based and keeping that in the village might be something to really work towards. And then just a question around when you mentioned the strong implementation plan around the OCP. And I'm just curious because an OCP to me, like, you know, it's an umbrella, doesn't really have a lot of teeth per se. It's form and character of the village. Like, it's not a zoning bylaw, as we know, right? So how do you strongly implement something that's not really a bylaw or even legislated per se? It's just form and character.
It's actually not. It's really policy driven. So I'm trying to use an example. So a good example, looping back to where you're talking about economic development, would be that you would prepare an economic development strategy. That would be an action. Another action might be redoing your subdivision servicing bylaw. And so you had an earlier conversation about conversations. The zoning bylaw will need to be updated to be consistent with the OCP. So they're actionable items within the OCP that drive the policy. That, you know, what I didn't want the community to think was we were just pie in the sky and we really had no plan to get there. And what we want to do is have a plan to get there. So that's pretty much how an OCP looks, and happy to provide examples. I think I spoke to some of you about when I worked south of the border, and that's when I first saw an implementable OCP, and they just handed it to me. And not unlike what you've done with the strat plan, is I knew exactly where I should go. My personal bias is all that I am doing what the village wants to do. I'm not bringing my own agenda. So those are really, really important, in my opinion, is to get the work that you're doing in planning and development to be very locally based and locally developed. Yeah. So
if I may just rephrase that, then the OCP does drive policy, although it is kind of, I don't use the word lofty, but like an umbrella type document. It does drive policy, which is actionable. So yeah. That's where the strength that comes in the implementation plan. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor McCann, did you have another?
No, I was just wondering about time. I always wonder about time. You know how that is. Yeah. How long will everything take? Yeah. That was just like
the OCP years.
You had a couple of things you were talking about that you're involved with. So there's always a completion target for everything. And then
and one of the things I think, because economic development is so important, and as is zoning, that they might start moving forward concurrent at the OCP so that we get them done. Yeah.
I see Melissa again up there. I don't know. I just want to make sure her hand is up right. Thank you. Okay, other questions or comments? Councillor Toss?
Thank you, Mayor O'Connor. Question, Carolyn, around the expression of interest for Barbers Food Retail Services. Matt, can you speak a bit more what that looks like, as it's a private initiative that we're sort of getting behind? And I know there's questions around, like, are we a food truck provider? Like, what does that look like for a municipality?
We aren't a food truck provider right now, and my concern was that we went, per that plan is to go buy one, but maybe no one would use it. So the expression of interest is, first of all, to say, hey, is there anyone, if we did this, would you be interested? Would you want to sell donuts out of a trailer, or would you want to sell coffee 3 days a week out of a trailer?
Sure.
And then in discussion with a few others, the importance of, like, a barber or a massage therapist or a physio that could come in, so a space which would be separate. And so think of it a little bit as you are actually going to be a commercial property owner once the Village Hub is. So that is an automatic transition, very similar. It's just they're temporary. And it also takes away the operator's risk in having to buy a food truck or rent space or whatever. So it gives us a bit more nurturing of these and facilitating these businesses. So first of all is to see if anyone's interested. Second of all is to work with them to see what they're looking for and whether we can make something work.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Other comments or questions? Councillor Lightfoot?
I guess the support of these small businesses, massage or barbershop or whatever. I got the impression that perhaps we would waive the cost of the build or the space. But that would be a timed activity, correct? So that as new builds come in and individuals have rentable space or have a restaurant or have other commercial spaces that they're trying to rent, we would withdraw so that we're not creating unfair business circumstances.
I totally agree. It's a temporary solution, and it's not intent to compete with other people that are in good faith and risk or are rebuilding. And even, we know the Legion will be opening soon. I don't think they would compete. I think they're quite a different product. So, but yeah, that would be definitely the intent. Yeah.
Any others? Councillor Michelle, anything to add?
No.
Thank you. Okay, let's move on then to the next topic.
Do we feel we covered economic development and OCP there as well, or those are the next two? So
I just had one question about OCP, even though we did talk about it a little bit. Somewhere in your presentation, Caroline, it twigged with me that there's a council responsibility as far as the OCP, and I appreciate any time you can spend more time clarifying all of that, just because it's all new.
Yes.
But, there's staff responsibility, there's like the legal responsibilities, but how can the council be proactive in promoting and making this a good process that's effective long-term? I guess that's my question.
Yeah, and really it's promoting the engagement. Right now, I'm trying to get some focus groups specialty because you don't have a number of the groups. Example is arts and agriculture, and maybe green energy as people in the community to help you lift it a little bit further, dig a little deeper than just a vision or an objective. But always for council, it's to be the leaders. I think Chris Field's presentation was that, to be the champions. Yeah.
Thank you. All right. Anything else? Diane had mentioned, OCP and economic development. So anything around that? Let's move on to the next. Maybe we'll have comments.
Let's do utilities and public works together, because those are both. I think everyone just started asking Carolyn questions, so
yes,
we'll do that
right.
with Daryl as well. We'll just put it together.
So utilities and public works. And that's
so that's like the major
Yeah,
capital projects or public works.
Right. Yeah. Okay. Councillor McCann.
I asked kind of really basic questions to start. So you talked about the size of the water pipes, and then so you replaced the 2 to 4 inch pipes with what?
Yeah, the minimum size that we were going with is 6-inch.
Oh,
And typically the minimum in practice now is 6-inch. Commonly now in most larger municipalities, you'll have 8-inch servicing hydrants. It's a combination of flow and velocity in the lines. We've gone within the residential areas, looping 6-inch lines because that should give you generally good residential flows. Commercial will have to look at a little bit separately because in commercial situations, you want a bit better flow characteristics. And I think with looping, by putting in additional lines between Fraser and Main Street, you will bolster the amount of flow you can get to the commercial properties.
Councillor, sure, go ahead, Councillor.
so then I asked, what happened to the old stuff when the new stuff was installed? So you got a 6-inch line. I presume you take all the old stuff out and get rid of it, but then you're not doing the entire village. So at some point you got to connect to that old line. Is that right? So you're connecting your 6-inch down to a 2 or a 4-inch, or what do you do there?
Well, our connection points, for example, for east of Main, there's a connection point off the main feed into the village on 4th Street, which is a 6-inch line. And we're also connecting into the main feed that runs down Main Street, which was upgraded, I'm thinking was around the year 2000. That's an 8-inch and possibly a 10-inch in certain sections. So it's a fairly good size main. We did have some issues with permitting approvals with the ministry, and then it was compounded by the strike. So we had to modify a bit of our reconnection plan. Typically, you don't want any sections where it's just a dead end section, because what happens is water builds up and it doesn't circulate. So the water, you get chlorine decay, so you get bacteria built up in the line. So you always want mains connected to other mains so the water keeps on flowing and doesn't stagnate.
Yeah. Okay, Councillor Lightfoot.
I'm not sure if this is the proper place to ask, but I'm wondering about well 1 and if that work is still in progress or if it's been completed. Looking at it and seeing if it's a viable water source or not.
Correct. Yes, actually that is. And I met with Cal Geoscience last week to look at that well and also look at the other wells. When we're out, we measured the static groundwater level just to see what the aquifers were doing. It's fairly consistent with the 2018 reporting. Well 3 was the static water level was down a little bit, but the well 2 and Alonzo were actually fairly consistent with the 2018 reporting. So from that perspective, that supply looks good. Currently, we're looking at procedure to actually pump. There is a pump in the well. It's a confined space chamber, so there's some challenges with working with the existing chamber. Ultimately, if we can get that source recommissioned, if the water quality and the yields and everything look good, we will bring everything above ground to meet proper IHA protocols for wellhead protection. But it is in progress, and I'm almost in daily contact with Cala on progress and activities that'll be upcoming. Ultimately, they'd like to get going with any flow testing before we get to really cold weather. So anticipate probably in the next couple of weeks or so, we will have Cala out in the village and doing some flow testing and then some water quality sampling from the well.
So if that proves to be a valuable source of water, it tests as potable groundwater with just UV treatment, I think is what it had before. Can that be added to the system without pumping it? above the highway?
Ultimately, there's two options that we would have. If we're pumping locally, it would ultimately have to pump up to what's called a TDH, total dynamic head, that would pump it into the 265 reservoir or locally to consumption. If we pump it locally without a dedicated main that goes up to the 265 reservoir, we would need full 43210 water treatment requirements that IHA requires. So that would require UV plus chlorination and suitable what's called chlorine contact time. So we'd have to evaluate that. At this point, we're not certain if we're going to try and pump it locally or pump it up to the 3, 4, 5 with wells 2 and 3. So that'll be a subsequent analysis once we know that or the Alonzo Way well is suitable for reconnection into the water system.
So that sounds like 27 probably, to have that work all completed. I'm not gonna hold you to it. It just sounds like a lot.
Yeah, I mean, we really haven't made a plan yet, so it's kind of hard to tell. We don't know the results yet, and we haven't figured out once the results are in,
Something will be coming back to council.
Yeah.
I've got two other quick questions, if you don't mind.
Okay.
Yeah, we may have to pivot there, depending on what the findings are when we evaluate the well. That's why it wasn't really considered in our 2026, because we don't have the results of what the quality and the yield is on that well. So it's hard to say that we're going to go ahead and reconnect it when we don't know what the results of the well testing will be. But we may have to pivot and actually, okay, it's good. So we may have to get some design work in place to actually get it reconnected.
There's just two other components that I don't I'm just going to throw them out as something to consider in the future. Just put it in the parking lot. And one is the water sewer extension to the proposed fire hall site. That might have to be put in a work plan. And the other is metering. I know historically federal and provincial governments were more willing to give money for water projects if there was some sort of usage metering component associated with it. And I'm just saying, I just want to keep that on the list so that as we move ahead, that's maybe something we want to use, especially maybe for businesses. But even I know seniors used to say they wanted metering because their household of 2 used way less water than the household of 6 who had multiple showers every day. So it makes it difficult to gauge how much revenue you can garner when you have that type of component. But I think it encourages responsible usage. And I think, I'm not sure which workshop we were at a while ago. They said even though the consumption, even though they weren't charging by the meter, the fact that meters were in, consumption went down considerable. So just future 27, 28, whenever maybe. But if it's on our list and we see opportunity to get resources to install that, it would be a wise move, I think. And curbside, my personal preference is curbside installation rather than within the home, because when we did have meters before, they were in the house, but sidelines for irrigation and whatever made it sort of
What is accurate?
not very accurate. Yes.
And as you said, parking lot, right, for future.
Yeah. Parking lot.
Good. Councillor Toss.
Just a quick, to answer the questions, there's a couple of points there. So, yeah, servicing for the fire hall. Yes, that that sewer project has been, we have allotted that with one of our previous council briefs for approval of sewer along to service the fire hall site. At this point, it would still be in the works pending the timing of the fire hall. So we would implement that on a case-by-case basis. So if, say, the fire hall is planned late next year, we would want to start servicing sometime next year. So, but at this point, there's no definitive timeline for the fire hall. And regarding metering, I really like the idea of metering. It doesn't necessarily mean that you have to bill people based on what they use, but it's like a canary in the coal mine. It actually gives you a lot of surveillance because we already have metering at the treatment plant. And metering in all buildings, or you say at the property line with meter setters, that would allow the village to monitor any changes in the water system, such as leakage. Because, as mains get older, they start to leak. So you can identify problems and address them early. So you'd have minor repairs versus having to repair catastrophic repairs.
Thank you. Councillor Toss.
Just to support Councillor Lightfoot's comments around metering and to Daryl's point around the leakage. I have to admit, quite disappointed when Kevin Vilak talked about the leakage up by Alonso there, and that it was all anecdotal about the water that was being saved. So I think metering, if we had some sort of a gauge before a repair like that and after, it would give us data rather than anecdotal, evidence towards what we're saving in water, and metering at the household is a no-brainer to me. But yeah, thanks.
Okay, Councillor McCann.
So when you talked about Loring Way and all of the things that are going on here, I did what you did, and the little time clock going, okay, so yeah, that's no problem. So to me, this is a lot of big work, very expensive work that has to be done in as much time as, as short a time as possible, clearly. But probably to Diane more than to Daryl, how does the financing work for that? Like, are funds committed now and we're allowed to spend them past 2026? Like, I get worried about the 2026 deadline on money and want to make sure that that's all part of the plan. It's all been taken care of. And just reassure me about that.
Yeah, and I can't remember the exact years of the water and sewer grant. I think the sewer grant goes until the end of 2028. Okay. And I think the water grant is maybe earlier than that, but I don't believe it's 2026.
Okay.
Right? So they are on a reimbursement basis. So we incur the costs and then we submit for reimbursement on them.
Thank you. The other question I had was about when you were talking about public works and automated systems and task work and completion. I just wanted to hear more about what exactly you had in mind there.
Right. So currently we've developed a spreadsheet that most village staff can put like a request for public works to action certain items. So that's a task list that public works can now go and say, okay, it's been tagged as a high priority, so we'll schedule that, say, next week. So that goes on to a public works calendar. So it's using the Microsoft Outlook calendar. We've got a public works calendar that we schedule activities. So right now there's routine stuff such as water sampling, water drop off, sewer sampling, and that sort of thing that gets repeated from week to week to week. But we would like to also add additional activities and get to say at least a 70% allocation level for staff, with leaving about a 30% float for surprises that come up. For example, there's a water leak that just happened up on Loring Way, so staff has to go address that. So you always want to leave a little bit of slack so they can go and address that. And then now for a feedback loop, staff are providing just digital photo records currently of daily activities. For automation, I would like to look at maybe some software programs that might assist in terms of, it could be a phone app so they could, write down what they did and the time and different things. And so everything's automated. It's easy to gather information and see, what are the priorities going forward? How much of an allocation do you need for certain activities for maintenance planning and such going forward? So then you can, budget appropriately for ongoing, financial costs for the village.
And that would all be on the cloud and not on a server?
That way, at this point, we haven't, investigated and evaluated any particular type of program, but I think these days would probably be a cloud-based type system.
Yeah,
Yeah, makes
yeah.
sense.
And are there other communities our size that are doing this kind of thing that we could kind of take notes from?
Yeah, there's probably some that we could probably discuss. I mean, we probably wouldn't be comparative to say like a larger center or city, but other municipalities we could talk to and find out what they do as well to for smaller operations, because you don't need really sophisticated operations, but at the same time, when you've got limited resources, we want a system that works well, that gives you the feedback and is efficient, just so it takes less staff time, because we want the staff, operationally working on, core issues for public works in terms of water and sewer.
And then to me, when I think about that, I think that the system that you're describing would be quite helpful if you had a bit of a turnover of staff. For example, if somebody new was coming in, they'd have all of that information there to help get them up to speed on where things are at, what's happened in the past and what they might be looking at.
Yeah, exactly. That's another good point, that, new staff comes in, they can look back at the record, see what was done. Oh, okay, so, starting April 1st, we've got to get on street cleaning and that sort of thing, and start, working on that. And they can see the timing based on the local weather patterns for Lytton and say, okay, they're starting at this time where I'm used to doing it. I'm from, Prince George. We started in May. Well, here we started a month early because, our weather's that much better, that sort of thing. That's a good point.
Thank you, Councillor Lightfoot.
I'm gonna be the Debbie Downer on this one, just because the cost for the electronic version of a small workload is probably, I'm just gonna be maybe a little rich, and a half wage for a worker over the course of the year. And I can be convinced, I can change my position, but initially it's like,
Agreed.
I've seen a 4-sheet work plan historically come through that had all those activities laid out, and it was just notated on the side. I've seen a daily worksheet from like 40 years ago that has every kilometer they tracked, and it was all manual. I agree. It's not that it's not a useful system. It's just it's an expensive system, and when it's down, it's even more confusing than having the paper trail. So, like I said, I can be convinced, but my initial response is, these things cost a lot of money, and I'd rather have feet on the ground. I'd rather have a half-time worker with feet on the ground and a pencil in his hand.
In the village.
Yeah.
And I'll speak to that as well.
Okay.
And, coming from my previous profession, we had a lot of data collection kind of tools that we use. Some of them are free. Some of them cost money. So I think it would depend on what's brought forward to us before I make my decision anyways on that. But
I'm willing to be convinced. I'm just not at this point.
I just look saving time, potentially saving time for sure. All of our employees carry phones right now, and let's use them as a tool. That's my personal opinion.
And that's an expense over the year.
But I suppose we'll argue this when it's not argued, but discuss it when it comes forward, because we don't even know what we're discussing yet. Yeah.
Yeah, correct. We need to gather some information in
But I
terms of
think
what
it's
we would
valuable.
use and the costs. So.
I believe that that's what this is for, is discussing around whether staff is going to pursue certain things when they take our temperature here. That's the purpose of it. And I totally agree with Councillor Lightfoot with these expensive programs or things that are happening in different towns to organize our town. I would much rather see a $2,000 contract go out to a local lady from Harvey Kaplan to take all of the what do you call it? The tumbleweed out that she's offered to do. It's that sort of grassroots initiatives that I think will be far more beneficial to this village than a program to make sure that our 2 employees are on task. And with ChatGPT and the things that you can do with AI now in terms of setting up systems like that, I totally agree with Councillor Lightfoot. It gets me a little upset when I see these huge things for such a small village. It's just inappropriate.
Councillor Lightfoot.
If I may, I think it would be of interest to me personally, and perhaps other council members, that when we get the budget, the financial details presented before us, if we could isolate the electronics cost. And I only say that because I recognize that when I first was on council and first became the mayor, we didn't even have internet. And over the last 20 years, that cost has hit every municipality within the province. At a certain size, it probably makes a lot of sense. But I really wonder how small communities can absorb something. And so I'm just curious, what percentage of our budget is associated with that? If it's an easy number to bring forward, how many cell phones do we have and how much do the cell phones cost us every year?
We can easily include that information for council.
And maybe it's just curiosity on my part and has no outside value, but it's good to know what we're having to deal with.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, at this point, it's just an idea, so it would, need further research. I mean, we're really at almost like a pre-feasibility on it, so it's a ways down yet, and we'd need a fair bit of discussion and evaluation.
Yeah, I think the wording in your presentations were something like potential initiatives or investigating initiatives. Yeah.
But that too takes time, unfortunately, right? The investigating initiatives. Is also
for the strategic plan. Yeah.
It's not. Yeah.
And maybe I'll be convinced. Who knows?
But Councillor Lightfoot, if I may, the exercise of convincing or that debate, if it's not something that should even get out of the stall, is perhaps something, I don't like to see our staff going off and preparing reports for something.
There's enough to do without taking on it.
Right?
Councillor Michelle, do you have any comment on that?
No.
Okay, thank you. All right. So anything else around Public Works? I have one quick one, Daryl, and it was the reference to 265 zone, because I know I've heard it before, but I could not picture in my mind in the village where that is. Or you said lower village, and I'm not even sure what that means.
Yeah, so going back just to a really quick summary, the 265 zone is basically the elevation of our reservoir. So that when we say 265, that's the zone that services essentially the whole community below the highway. Okay. So 265 zone, that means that water system. And at a previous meeting, we had discussed some investigation work that we were going to be completing. We did actually complete that work in terms of looking and doing a bit of test pit evaluation of what's going on with the lines. So we've done that. That work was inconclusive, so we're carrying on, and hopefully in the next couple of weeks, we're going to do a bit of flow testing and just get a better handle on what's going on so we can go to the next steps.
Okay. Thank you for that. Yes, I do recall that now.
Okay.
All right. We'll move on to the next presenter.
So next is recovery and emergency management. So Brian.
That was Brian. Okay. Who do we have that has some comments? Councillor McCann.
I'll start with a simple, easy question, Brian. So what happens now in a community emergency?
Depends on what the emergency.
There is a community emergency tomorrow. It's a major thing. It's big enough. It's going to involve everybody, not just the village.
Train spillage, like Kamloops just happened.
Anyway, just there's something happened and it's big enough that everybody's going to be concerned, not just the village.
We'll refer to our current emergency plan, which was just developed, depending on the emergency.
Yeah. So you personally, what are you going to end up having to do?
I'm going to open the plan to the page that says, this is what my emergency is, and follow step by step.
Yeah.
So to clarify, you're the lead?
Right now, I would be the lead, yes.
Yeah. And you?
I mean, with the assistance of Lytton Fire Rescue, TNRD, and our other partners in collaboration, right?
Okay. And that's all of the First Nations basically, or some of the First Nations, or any of the First Nations? Like when you say.
We don't have written agreements right now.
Yeah, and so where are we with that? Are we in
We're working.
direction or are we?
We're just working on having meetings to discuss how we can collaborate,
Okay,
but nothing's formally been set up as of yet.
and from your past experience, knowing the village and people here, do you think you'd have any problem if you needed assistance from somebody you don't have a written agreement with right now?
Absolutely not.
There you go, thank you. No, I do have another one.
Oh, that being said, outside agencies, perhaps,
Yeah,
depending on what the emergency is.
yeah.
If their entire province is under a state of emergency, we can only rely on our local resources.
Right. Yeah,
That's
and
right,
you made comments that you said there's gonna be more, what do we call that? Tabletop exercises. So, and you get to do that? You get to organize that?
I'm going to try and organize some more. I mean, we do need to have more people involved so that it's not only practicing for ourselves, but along with Melissa, we're trying to do recruitment with fire rescue as well as emergency services.
Mhm.
So in the coming newsletters and through training opportunities, I'm trying to invite all community members to attend to see if they're interested in collaboration towards these projects, right?
Good. The agreements that you talk about, does that include fire protection? Like, where's the fire protection agreements and all of this? You're involved in that too, aren't you?
Not really. I'd probably defer that to Diane.
Oh, okay, I didn't know that. All right.
And those fire protection agreements are awaiting the MOUs.
Oh, we're stuck in a loop. All right. Rebuilding. I wanted to know more about the stormwater issues and solutions. What on earth are we talking about? Stormwater.
When I have some assessments, I'll bring them forward to you.
Okay.
Like
so-
we have some issues with stormwater
Yeah,
that we're investigating solutions, and depending on what those solutions are, we'll bring them to council for their approval.
okay, so these are like ongoing old school things that have been around for a while.
Some of them, yes.
Okay.
I think Councillor Toss had her hand up.
I just add with around storm sewers, I guess the point is that there's an identified problem, so we're looking into it as kind of there's an issue with the water not going down storm drains.
Well, the atmospheric river of 2021 kind of brought up some concerns with old infrastructure drainage throughout the area, and that needs to be addressed.
And where it comes out. I think there was a private property owner that had a sewer outtake and we couldn't find where it went, and we thought it might go into the storm drain at one point. Is that kind of
I never heard that one, but
okay?
I hope not anyway. Yeah,
I'm gonna actually.
let
Councillor,
Daryl know about that
I'm
one.
gonna ask you.
Councillor Lightfoot.
I'm not really clear, but so help me become more knowledgeable. So the storm drains are down Main Street, but there's also a storm drain by the pool. Is that the only one on Fraser Street?
So when I'm talking about storm water, I'm not just talking about pipes. I'm talking about ditches, roadways, crowns of roadways, to make sure that road water is running the direction that it should be.
Yes.
That doesn't affect private properties, right? Like, I mean, and that's where Modi's kind of involved as well, is, you know, they have a lot of infrastructure that drains into our system.
And even the new road, like for down River Drive, and it rains and you get to see how the water drains off the road.
Or
After
doesn't.
a good rain.
Or doesn't.
So if you walk by like this, you're okay.
I do have one
Any
more
other
question.
questions, Councillor McCann?
When I was curious about the village responsibilities regarding slope stability. So you talked about slope stability, and I just want to clarify, like we do have that whole east of Main slope, and we have slopes on the other side of town. So what is the village responsibility? Like, are we responsible for making sure that every single property has a stable slope next to them, or I don't even understand what?
Councillor, or sorry, CAO member.
Diane's on this one.
I'll
Yeah.
jump in because I was involved at the beginning of the discussions and Brian's just kind of been brought in more recently. And so
Yeah.
this is some of the properties over like 339 Main Street and some other ones over there that we've been talking about for a while that are part of the site readiness grant from EMCR to ensure that the properties are returned to the condition that they were in at the time of the fire.
Yeah.
And some of that involves some slope work and some geotechnical advice to do that.
And going forward, like after all of that business is done for recovery,
Yeah.
is the village responsible? What kind of responsibility does the village have for slope stability in general in the village? Like, is it homeowners are responsible, or is the village responsible in some way?
Well, I think the homeowners would be responsible for their own property.
Yeah,
And then, we would be responsible for village-owned property.
Yeah.
I think one of the challenges that we probably will run into is at the top of the slope are a couple of big organizations that, maybe have some responsibility as well that we don't do
Yeah.
a lot of work with.
yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you, Diane.
Daryl, do you have a question?
No,
Or a
just
comment? Sorry?
yeah, Diane answered the latter one, but the prior one on the stormwater, for some clarification on where we would go with that. There is catch basins for the most part completely down Main Street as well as Fraser Street. The records are not terribly complete. We have sourced some old strip maps and stuff from various sources and consultants. So we got a better idea of what we have. But typically, it seems there is a pipe system on both Fraser Street and Main Street that collects down at Center Lane and First, and then that all discharges just below the wastewater treatment plant, down just above the Public Works laydown yard. So that's the discharge point for the storm sewer. On the larger aspects of conveyance of upland flows and such, we would need to do a bit of an assessment. So what's involved there is we would look at what is the area of catchment. So you'd basically take some mapping and you'd look at the complete area, and you'd look at the soil characteristics, the slopes, various databases for rainfall intensities and stuff that you would get for various return periods, such as a 5-year storm, a 100-year storm, 200-year storm. And then you would start looking and determine the size of the infrastructure that is currently required and compare that to what you have. And then decide, is there a course of action? Is everything fine? Or do we have to start upgrading some stuff? Is it village responsibility? Is it ministry responsibility? That sort of thing. So hopefully that clarifies that a little bit.
Thank you for that. Any other comments or questions for Brian? Councillor Toss?
Thank you. Just going back to the emergency contacts, I'm on the website right now. There's 2 phone numbers, 254-0400 for after hours emergencies. Who answers that?
Sorry, what was that again?
So there's 2 phone numbers for emergencies.
Right.
Emergency operations and Public Works for after hours emergencies.
Correct.
After hours emergencies, 778-254-0400.
Is the Public Works lead.
So that would be Morgan.
Correct.
And then 778-254-7410
That would be me.
is you. Why would they be different? Why wouldn't it be you for all the emergencies?
Because Public Works emergencies are different. Like it might be that your water's back, your sewer.
Oh, I see. It's under water and sewer
Like a
emergencies and emergency operations
Line
for
backed
everything
up in your
else.
basement or something along that line. That's right.
Gotcha. Okay.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments? Who is next on the list there, Diane?
So next is capital projects. If
Thank
anybody
you.
had
And that's
any.
you. And that's
me.
the one we go over every month, right?
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
yeah.
And then communications is next, is Melissa.
Okay, let's move on to,
Question about the public, why the fire hall wasn't in the major projects?
Because we don't have any next steps on that at this time,
Thank
further
you.
to the monthly report. You have to wait.
we haven't finalized approval for the grant yet, have we?
Yeah, correct.
Okay, we have Melissa, communications. And questions or comments for Melissa? Councillor Lightfoot.
I found that really interesting, all the stats of how many users and different platforms we have. I'm wondering, is that something you could just share with us, like a hard copy,
so we could
I
brag
certainly
about our numbers.
could. I certainly could. What I did last year was presented all of the 2024 metrics at a council meeting. And that's something I could bring forward to a committee of the whole if desired.
I think it's something we can be really proud of. It sounds like we're getting a lot of viewership and we're doing a lot of things right. So it would be good.
Thank you. Councillor Toss.
I'm wondering, Melissa, if you've got any comments about how our communications are going to sort of transition into being internal over the next couple of years. You've got quite a skill set. You're doing an amazing job. Wondering what that's going to look like when you're gone. What does what kind of thoughts have you got on that?
Well, one of the things is setting up a website which is easy to use and easy to update, and having procedures written down for whoever maintains that website. Definitely the service level will go down if without a dedicated person, going back to the sort of normal budgets for the village, but leaving capacity within the organization and leaving things in a good shape has always been part of our plan. And transitioning any of those sort of tools and skill sets to the internal long-term village staff is the plan. Some of the communications will also be minimized as the rebuilding projects are done and handed over to the community. But yeah, sharing information, training staff internally, and leaving things in a good place with tools that are easy to use and maintain has always been part of the focus here.
Thank you. I'm really hoping that some work's being done on that. Thank you.
Councillor McCann.
I just wanted to follow that because my question was basically the same, what's the succession plan? But from my experience having in, for example, the River Festival, someone else manages the website for that organization. And I've noticed over time, that person gets further and further and further away and less available to reach. So I really can appreciate the importance of having both someone who knows, like to have that line, that connection still available to you, because you know for a while. And also what you're describing is some of those things are really, that website is really important. Like we saw before the fire, the importance of the website, and through that whole disaster, and now on the other side of that, seeing the difference that has made in our community. And I really value that. I really value the quality of what we have right now, and understand how easy it is to lose that over time. So those are really important, and just finding someone to mentor ongoing is really hard, because you think you've got someone, and lo and behold, they're usually young, and then they usually move on to something else because that was a nice little sideline and now they got full-time work. So I think it's really prudent of our council to be aware of the importance of the work that you've done and the things that you've set up, and to find ways that may be creative to make sure they're maintained and continue in some capacity. Even though we're smaller and have less money and all of that stuff is going to be our reality, I still really value the place that communication has had in an effective recovery for the council.
Yeah.
So just wanted to say that.
Councillor Lightfoot, did you have a comment?
No.
Yeah, I just want to add, appreciation for the communication expertise we have. And I just know, I just feel personally, moving forward as, we're coming to an election, who knows, things could change next year. It'll really be dependent on the council and the council decisions they make around, do they choose to have a contract with a communications person or somebody to run the website or whatever that's going to look like. We've been so fortunate through recovery to have that expertise here. And as I said, personally, I envision it run internally. I think that's the reality of a small community.
Yeah.
So anyways, I just wanted to make that comment. Diane?
Yeah, I just wanted to add, Mayor O'Connor, thank you. And I think it's, I think it goes across the board. So whether it's some of the things that Melissa just mentioned that she's done in communications, or some of the improvements that Lisa McIntosh has been doing with the accounting system and making it simpler, or the standard operating procedures in public works, like it's all across the board, where I think there's been a concerted effort for over a year now and continuing on into 26 to simplify the village's processes, make things as simple as possible to follow, make sure things are documented, make sure they make sense, so that while we have the benefit of the recovery staff, making sure we have everything set up so that when the positions are no longer here, the folks that are working through that will have good systems and good processes in place and good tools at their disposal. So we've been talking about this, I think, for a little while now, and that's what a lot of these, and not a lot, but that's what some of these initiatives are about.
Thank you for that. Any other comments or questions for Melissa? Communication. Okay, we'll move on then to the next. Thank you, Melissa. Move on to the next person, and that would be. Was that it?
That's it. Yep.
Jim, is that
That's
it? See, I just have to keep it all straight.
Well done.
All right. Well, I think that's been great, great presentation, and I hope valuable feedback. Does anybody else have anything to add? Councillor Lightfoot.
I just want to say to everyone on screen and Brian at the table and Kathy that I've been so happy and impressed by everyone working together through what's been a really difficult 3 years. I'm almost crying because I remember days when staff were just nothing but just a headache, and way back, right? But such competent people have really helped us move things forward, and I think having a plan for next year, it looks like I'm going to disagree with Councillor Toss and hope that the village office is actually realized before the end of next year, so that staff can be in a new building.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for that. Okay.
Positive.
Councillor McFell, any final comments? Absolutely. Thank you, Councillor McCann. Anyone else? So we have been under 2 hours on this this meeting, so I will ask for a motion to adjourn the committee of the whole. Councillor Lightfoot and a seconder. Councillor McCann. All those in favor? Carried. And we have now that brings us back into the special council meeting. And we'll ask for a motion to reconvene the special council meeting. Councillor McCann and a seconder. Councillor Toss, all those in favor? Carried. Now a motion to adjourn the special council meeting.
So moved.
Councillor McCann and seconder, Councillor Michelle. And yeah, we don't even need to do all those in favor. We are now adjourned. So thank you everyone for attending the committee of the whole.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
So is it always a special council meeting?